listening to CaveRadioBroadcasting.com. The words and opinions you are about to hear are of the hosts and do not reflect the management of CaveRadioBroadcasting.com.
Because her shoulders are broad?
No, because I can't say it out loud. That would be racist.
Against football players?
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, discriminating against linebackers.
I am
How
discriminating against linebackers.
Dare you?
Right now.
Think about all the poor linebackers.
Well, actually, it isn't my fault because I was born a racist. I'm a racist, like genetically, right? Isn't that how it goes?
According to Obama.
Okay. Yeah.
He said it's in your genes.
So I mean,
Did he not?
Yeah.
So I'm correct on that.
Well, I mean,
so you're right.
You were a racist. Might as well go all out.
It's
right?
genetic. It's in your DNA, according to him. I think that was the actual quote. It's in your DNA. So
isn't that what Jimmy the Greek got fired for saying?
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure.
How did Howard Cosell survive that? You know, how did he ever survive that?
I don't know.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know. Michael Obama.
Really
That
Michael
cracks me up, dude.
But
she just reminds me of. You ever seen? What's that? Young Tom Cruise. It's kind of like a dragon medieval fairies movie.
Oh yeah, I know.
Legend. You know the devil in Legend.
Yeah.
Okay, you will never look at Michelle Obama the same.
Right. Well, yeah, I try not to look at Michelle Obama
because she reminds
she
me
is
of
frightening.
So,
but the argument is they've got 2 kids, right?
Right.
And they look a lot like both of them. You could say, there's a family
Easy.
resemblance there,
Take
right?
it to easy.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know where it goes. You got to be careful.
Easy.
Right?
Oh, why is it? Because they're black?
It's because they all look
just
the
because they're black.
same. No,
Yeah.
it was in my mind. So because there's racism in my DNA.
But that's the first thing on everyone's mind. Like even when you go to say it right now, if you go to say something like that, first thing that pops up is like, uh-oh, what am I saying? I better be careful what I'm trying to say.
Right. Putting him in there was brilliant because you can't say anything without it being construed as racism. Even if it is, and really the real racism doesn't get caught as racism. It's all the other nonsense.
It was funny. I was pitching. I was talking to one of my buddies who's far outside of our group on this. And not that he doesn't agree with us, I just don't talk to him very often, so he's not always up on what's going on with us and the show. And I pitched him the whole Stephen Hawking thing.
Oh, yeah?
And he's like, oh, yeah, it's a speak and spell.
Poor Stephen Hawking.
He's a monkey. He's
this
a
poor
monkey.
guy. He's got a new thing coming out, dude. He's back on the scene, man.
Oh, yeah, he's written a new book, right?
Yeah, he's out. He's back on the scene. And
one word at a time.
More stuff about space. In fact, these space shows are getting out of hand.
Oh.
I sent you guys that Facebook video also, right, with him?
Yes.
After we had that conversation.
Yes.
And then he had this interview with Piers Morgan.
Yeah.
And it takes him forever to to construct a sentence or whatever.
Yeah.
But he said so many things in this short interview that they had. I'm like, wow, he laid down every agenda item.
Yeah, it was almost like
there
it was almost like it was programmed in advance.
Whoa. Almost.
That's how smart that guy is.
Yeah, that's how smart he is.
So smart.
He knew the questions before they were.
The only thing I can say is there is one thing I implicitly agree with him on, and that's that people who boast about their IQ are losers. Stephen Hawking's right about that, or whoever's programming his talking box.
He says this?
Right.
Is that something a comment that he's made?
He said it in the interview.
I have to
he said that people that check it on Snopes, yeah, because it's probably not true.
No, it'll come up false.
Yeah, it's not true.
Yeah.
So
he didn't say it in an interview. You go down to the bottom of the story and you'll say, "Oh, he said it in 1989 and wrote it in a book."
Yeah.
But this whole thing is false.
Yeah, he said people that boast about their IQ are losers, and I agree with that.
I would tend to. It's usually the smartest people that are, or it's usually the dumbest. people.
You could be smart and have high IQ, whatever that means, and just don't boast about it.
Right.
Because that does make you. Well, it makes you at least makes you a douchebag.
Well, I know that in every other instance, it's usually the people screaming the loudest and accusing their partner of cheating that are the ones that are actually cheating.
Right.
So I would think the people that are boasting most about having a high IQ really don't.
Well, that's probably all they got going for them.
Right.
Well, really.
Flat tire hosed. IQ, it's up there. Right? Yeah, that's kind of what I run into.
Don't you find it kind of odd that, when you start investigating all this stuff, you start really digging into things, don't you really feel stupid? I mean, truthfully.
Yeah, I agree with you. It shows your limitations.
You know, you think oh yeah, I know what's going on. I'm pretty up on things. And the more you get into this, the more you think, man, I know nothing.
Well, no, dude, I got a really high IQ, so
Yeah.
nothing really gets by me.
For me, I knew I was distracted because one of the things that Hooper and I have in common is the whole blinders thing. When I was a full-time professional musician, the only way that I could do the things I did was that was my only focus. Everything else was a distraction. Work was a distraction. Relationships were a distraction. All I wanted to do was play my guitar and write songs, and that's why I did well at it. Okay, and that's why, you know, I mean, the people that enjoyed the music I did, well, that's why I was able to do that music, because since I settled down and got a family and all that stuff, I can't really do it anymore. I mean, I can still play guitar and jam and stuff like that, but as far as to be able to churn out the music I was putting out that are up to the standards I want to do, I don't have the quality time anymore. So I'd rather just not do it than do it badly.
Yeah.
You can't pick up your guitar and play.
Well, I can pick up my guitar and play. For me,
like
it's all about
yesterday.
lyrics, and you know, the lyrics and the melody of the song, and that really takes silence focus. So I understand, you know, when Hooper goes out for a few days and then comes back with volumes of work done, because when I used to get in that zone, I used to do the same thing, and so I kind of plead ignorance. I am angry. I am more angry that people who don't have hobbies don't realize this. It wasn't like I was totally deceived. I just wasn't paying attention.
Which is
Most don't. Most people don't.
You were distracted,
Right.
Which is a form of
Right.
deception on some
Right.
level, because we all get distracted. Even now,
Oh, I get it.
get distracted.
Right.
So
That's the purpose of TV and all these other things.
Yeah, because I mean,
to keep
I
distracted.
didn't watch TV back then. I didn't know what was going on. That's why when people bring up Seinfeld and Friends, like, I was playing guitar for that 12 years. You know.
yeah,
You know, even if you think you're trying to pay attention by you're watching news, you would think that you could pick up some things from the news. But as soon as you see it, there's so much lying and so much BS going on that you just get angry.
Oh,
I mean, look what's going on right now. I mean, you've got all these people complaining about, you got the Russian collusion thing, then you got the Susan Rice thing, and you've got these stations saying one thing, these stations saying another thing, and you're like, none of you people are telling the truth.
Nope.
dude, it is such a disaster that anymore I don't even get angry, dude. I just laugh because.
Well, it's not. I got pissed off today because it's really not funny what's going on in Syria. Okay.
No, it's not funny,
Yeah.
but again, can you believe any of it?
No,
Right.
but what's going to happen is there will be something real that comes out.
Of course,
You know.
which is probably why it happened. You see,
Yeah, exactly. That is why it happened.
And the thing is you know, you need to do what you're doing, and you need to say these things within your circle of friends. If Facebook is a vehicle for you, you need to do it, because what happens is as the things that you see clearly are about to happen, and your friends, like your one buddy you were messing with, dude, that cracked me up. No, I'm over your house right now. We like to talk about your plans. You were killing me. That was so funny.
He's probably like deleting his.
Yeah. God, that was funny. But at any rate, because the thing is, I mean, I can link this to a personal story. One of the things that, as I was awakening to both the truth of God and the truth of our world, DiBiase, our listeners know DiBiase was instrumental in that for me.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that really made me go, whoa, and gave him huge credibility in my book is he laid out for me step by step what the Supreme Court ruling on gay marriage meant and would lead to. Mm-hmm. I was thinking it was just like, you know, a bunch of people who were gay were going to get married. And he's like, oh, no. They're going to use this against the church and blah, 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 blah. And he laid out for me everything that's happened since that ruling. And every little thing that's happened, I look at him just like, dude. And he's like, dude, You know, and,
there's a purpose behind.
But the
all
thing
of
is it just shows, you know, that you know he called that one. Now since then, I've called one or two. You know, you've brought up great topics, Nick and Hooper as well. But I'm saying you get inside a group of friends, and we're all stronger together. We're never going to figure this out on our own. It's going to take way more than us. And, you know, that's what you got to do is you got to get the truth out there so it gives you credibility. So when your boy is trying to talk smack in a year and you're right about Syria, you got that to go, hey, Syria.
Well, we have to ask honest question about it. You bring up Syria, and you have to really be intellectually honest about this. What's happening in Syria, I'm not trying to minimize what's happening in Syria or somehow downplay Syria because it's a big deal. It's a problem anytime you have something that's going on. My question is, why is the focus on Syria?
That's a good question.
This is not new.
It's not new. It happens all over. It, you know.
Look at the disaster that the African continent is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I always point out. Remember, we talked about
Boko Haram is running amok.
Boko Haram kidnapped how many hundreds
a whole village
of young kids, young gals. Nothing ever. Michelle Obama put up a little tweet sign.
But she doesn't care either.
Yeah. You know, if you really care about this kind of stuff, why don't you go after? I agree with you.
Well, what's so important? What's so important about Syria? It certainly isn't the people. Because if it was the people,
you're absolutely right.
This would have been addressed a long time ago.
You look at what's going on in the right and what's going on the left, right? And when you can see both of these things go, it's like when I was watching Carlson again the other day, who keeps going further and further out of mainstream media. He had a guy on from, I don't remember the guy's name. He was he was doing a writing piece for Los Angeles Times or something like that, and he was on the show. First thing it says is Council on Foreign Relations. This is where the guy comes from. So immediately I'm like, okay, I have to listen to what this guy says,
for sure.
Right? First thing he starts going on with, hey, I'm a lifelong Republican. I supported John McCain. I supported Mitt Romney, blah, blah, blah.
And now you're fired.
And
have a nice day.
Because why?
And he goes on and on about this, and then he starts talking about these other issues that, you know, he's totally against, and it's against Trump, obviously. You know, everything's against it, but it's all follows along the same narrative. You're going to hear it from the left. You're going to hear it from the neocon Republicans, right, who are the big story, the never Trumpers, the people that are behind all the Middle East stuff and the wars. So he was talking about the Russian collusion, right? It's a big story, Russian collusion. And it was funny because Tucker Carlson says right after he starts laughing, he's like, what do you guys have, a early morning phone call? You guys all get together and say these are the talking points
for the day?
Because they all say
he's
the
right.
exact same thing. Absolutely, he's right.
Yeah, he's right.
You get all the same talking points, all the same issues, and everything you bring up is like,
say
oh, this.
exactly the same sentences in the same way.
Right.
Notice when it was always xenophobic, misogynist, blah, 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 there was a certain order that was repeated every single time it was uttered.
Well, it's coordinated.
It's coordinated.
Sure. We know this because there have been conference calls that have been leaked, I guess, or exposed or just played. I don't know, that they don't even hide anymore. Mm-hmm. But with these operative organizations, right, going over this very stuff. Okay, we're going to talk about this, and when this comes up, you respond with this, and it's a coordinate. None of these people are literally just empty shells, robots. You could tell them to say anything. Mm-hmm. You could say, my grandma wears chocolate underwear, so what are we going to do about that? And they would literally say that on TV.
Yeah.
Just because someone else told them to say it.
Right. And what makes
chocolate underwear actually is an interesting idea. But anyway.
Yeah, kind of distracts from another distraction. Right. So, but these people are all doing that, and you wonder to yourself, either they are, 1, stupid, 2, they're in on it, or 3, they're brainwashed like a lot of people.
It could be all 3.
Yeah, it could be all 3.
It's got to be a combination.
Yeah,
it's got to be
all 3.
There's got to be something where all these people, because like Howard said, they all repeat the same talking points, same order. It happened with
they're all trying to get ahead. I mean, these people are all trying to get into power, one way or the other. If it's to be in the media and to be a powerful newscaster, or media personality, if it's political, if it's, these people are all trying to get power, some form of power in one way or the other. Mm-hmm. And the company line is, well, you just do what we say now and you're going to get rewarded later. And everybody falls in line because they all buy it. Everybody wants to be a team player.
Well, it's getting annoying, and that's why.
And it's getting dangerous.
Well, and this chemical weapons attack, and apparently, and again, I'm not a chemical weapons expert, but from the looks of things, it appears to be some kind of nerve agent, right? It's probably not your standard, mustard gas or something like this. It's some kind of nerve agent.
What do you think the chances are they can link it to Iraq?
Well, I think the most likely would be the link, because they made so much of it, would be the Soviet Union.
Well, regardless of where they're going to link it to, it's just that's like the Russian collusion thing. When they go in and they say, "Oh, we've got this info," and the Russians left their fingerprints on their software they use to hack this or that. You talk to regular hackers, people that know stuff. They're like, if they're that freaking bad at hacking, they're not part of the government.
It's not a state actor.
You know what I mean? It's not a state actor. So you've got all these different things. You've got this whole thing about 17 different intelligence agencies that no one can name. No one can name who these 17 different intelligence agents that are all on the same page when it comes to this stuff. And you can ask them, who are they? Who's the guy that said this? And it's all talking points. But the Syrian thing doesn't make sense. And they've already reported, Susan Rice and John Kerry reported a while back. Remember when the last time they had a gas attack in Syria from Assad?
Yeah, and nothing happened as a result.
Nothing happened from it. They never proved who it was. In fact, I've heard they proved it was not Assad. Beside the point. We'll never know. Okay?
Yeah, if you believe that even.
Yeah, you don't know who to believe on any of that stuff. But they said that they took away all his weapons and the means for him to produce it. Now, all of a sudden, right before he goes in front of NATO...
Somebody in the Obama administration lied?
Yeah. No, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, that's shocking.
No.
But all this stuff is going on where when you see these kind of stories, you start thinking to yourself now, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right. Something's not right here. He's supposed to go in front of the UN. Trump already said, hey, we're not going after Assad. We're gonna say that he's still going to remain in power, right? That we're not going to try to take him out. Then this happens like right after that.
Yeah.
Well, then Rex Tillerson comes out and says diplomatic, quote unquote, steps are underway to remove Assad. Mm-hmm. Just came out with that today, I think. So, again, the question is, why is the focus on Syria? Other than the humanitarian issue, which has always been the case in places like Syria, what's so important about this place? What is the focus? Why is that? And I'm not trying to downplay what happened.
You're asking a very valid point, because
but
that happens all over.
People are getting slaughtered as we speak,
right?
And no one seems to care about that, because you can't put a pipeline through those places. There's no strategic port of entry in those places. They're probably landlocked. There's nothing of interest there. No agriculture, nothing. So that doesn't matter. But Syria. Russia desperately wants to run a pipeline through that country, dude. You know it.
Well, the other thing is there's the information going around that we talked about on the show a while back, and Hooper's got a lot of info on this, would be the banking, the monetary system that they use. So they're not with the globalist banking. Just like, the what was it, 11 banks in 2000 that weren't, or 11 countries
there was only 4 the last, I don't remember what.
There's only a few left. North Korea and Syria, and I think one more now.
Yeah, I think it was down to 3.
I think it's down to 3. These are the only places. Oh, and Russia's supposed to be going off. They're talking about leaving, just like everybody else is leaving this global bank, which we know is evil.
Right.
It's one of these things where there's so many different things, so many different directions. You start to get confused as to who is really behind this stuff. This is what's important. When we were talking before, you talk about 9/11, you talk about all these different things. You say, hey, watch out for this, watch out for that. And you start paying attention to it a little bit, and you start thinking, yeah, there's something going on here, but how could all this be? Until myself, I'm going to say, until I realized that this is truly a fight between good and evil. and this came from you when we were talking about this a long time ago. You brought this up to me, and where I'm saying like, oh yeah, sure, it
can't be that simple.
Yeah, and then you start paying attention, you start figuring it out, and then you say, that is the only logical explanation for any of this stuff. There's all these chess games we talk about being played at so much higher levels than what we understand. The Syria, the North Korea stuff that's going on right now. This whole thing against Russia. Everything that's being played right now is for a purpose. These are all chess game pieces being moved, and we're all being manipulated.
Well, and the shame is that you just point that out is we're being manipulated, but in some places like Syria, you got innocent people caught up in the mix that are just getting slaughtered.
That's right. And my argument is things keep going on this path that it's going where, once again, you start talking about Illuminati and what was written about the Third World War and blah, blah, blah. If the economy goes bad like it's supposed to, if World War III, if all these things happen, that means our country, our people are going to suffer greatly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you look around and you think, wait a minute, somebody's got to stop this.
Well, and they'll use our blood and treasure to
minimum
to at a minimum.
At
right?
a minimum.
That's a given.
Right. That's gonna happen.
And we literally have no say in it because the people that are pulling the levers, so to speak, are unelected bureaucrats that are appointees, etc. And we don't get a voice in any of this stuff, dude. It's quite a shame. But you could see the posturing, dude. You look at what Taiwan's up to right now. And this one's interesting for me because Taiwan, I think everyone recognizes Taiwan as Taiwan, except for China. China insists, even during the Olympic Games, that they don't say Taiwan, they say Chinese Taipei. And everyone capitulates and does what China says. I say give China the finger, and we'll ask Taiwan what they want to be called. So what is Taiwan up to right now? Building their own submarines. That's what they're up to right now. Because against Chinese opposition, and why this is beyond, it's not beyond me, but why we care what the red Chinese say, ever, is beyond me.
Why is our news media so behind that also?
Well, it's beyond me. So we have slowly over the years have dwindled our arms sales to Taiwan to almost nothing because of Chinese opposition. But you don't get to tell us who we sell anything. We'll sell Taiwan whatever we want. And, until you work out your little communist problem, we're not buddies. This needs to be made clear, but now the lines have been blurred, and we let them do things like insist that we call, as petty as that sounds, you're literally referring to athletes and teams as Chinese Taipei, and I'm like, I looked it up. I'm like, where the heck is Chinese Taipei? What is this? Oh, it's Taiwan, but because China insisted that they be referred to as Chinese Taipei, not Taiwan. I'm wondering why we care what China says, ever. I mean, really? Why don't we go back to what you guys did in the 50s? Let's talk about that. Oh, wait, no, that didn't. No, we don't want to talk about that.
But what's funny is it really is funny when you think about this, put it in perspective. Try to call Bruce Jenner Bruce now, right? He's going to go on and he's say, "No, my name's Caitlin." We're all going to say, "No, you're Bruce.
You're Bruce."
Hey, Bruce.
And everyone would be up your shorts about that, right?
Well,
but yet China does exactly what you're saying, and everyone's supporting it.
They fall right in line.
I think it was the leader of Taiwan called President Trump after the election, right?
Yeah,
and that's what the whole media went nuts.
It was the
over.
first. I think the first call from a foreign leader was that guy.
The president of Chinese Taipei.
Good boy, Howard. Good boy. You don't want to make the Chinese mad.
That's right. No way.
Heaven forbid we make the communists angry.
13 terrorists, 4 planes.
My God. So yeah, I mean that's I don't get it. They're building fake islands like there's no tomorrow. But don't worry, these aren't military installations.
No.
Even though there's landing strips and every other, it's for maritime safety, so we can protect. Because the Navy can't do that, so we have to have these fake. That's such crap.
Yes.
It's such crap. And everyone in that region, what's going on there right now is interesting because they're all kind of like, well, it's not so bad. I mean, they look at us as a business partner. Yeah, until you're not yielding a profit.
Yep. Then you're out.
And then they're going to colonize you.
Yep.
Because they're drooling about it.
There are so many people in our country that would rush to be subservient to the government. Right
Dude,
now,
they're literally in the streets demanding it.
Yeah.
Yes. I find that mind-blowing that they don't really realize. I mean, you look at, first of all...
no, Tony, they're the resistance.
They're the resistance, yeah. We want to be enslaved, is what they're saying.
Yeah, they're the
Slave
resistance. So actually, if they want more government and bigger government and give government more money so government can institute these programs that government pays for with the money they steal from us, but they're the resistance. But actually, the fact of the matter is they're not the resistance. They are the fascists.
Exactly. And I find it amazing that these people cannot see. They had the latest thing was they played the George Orwell 1984 movie and calling that like some kind of hit against Trump. Like Trump's the fascist. He's, here's 1984. It's like, wait a minute. You've been living under these same things for how many years?
Right.
And now all of a sudden Trump gets elected and all of a sudden you're seeing that he's the guy doing it when all these other fascist, I mean, look at it. The banks, insurance companies, Wall Street, RNC, all these different people against Trump. And I still look at that. I look at Trump and I say, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Are we going to be deceived here? Is there something going on that you can't see? Some chess that you're not seeing? But I have to go back and I say, well, I know Hillary's evil. I know.
Without a doubt.
Jeb. You can see all these people that all these different groups were pushing. You say, those are all evil. So therefore, there's no way that he could be a part of this unless it's just so far up over everybody's.
Or he's absolutely.
A lot of window.
Maybe didn't start off that way, but he'll become part of it, dude.
Well,
you just give it a minute. He's already starting.
Well, it's like when you talk about Reagan. Okay, I still go back and I think of Reagan. I'm like, man, I really liked Reagan.
Yeah,
I thought he did some good things, but there's a lot of negatives against him, and I think
he was
the same position. He was in office for 60 days before they shot him.
Yeah.
Right? They made him take Bush. He was not part of that plan, but did he capitulate and start following along with that plan? Probably.
Yeah, maybe on some level. But we have to be fair. I would say in modern history anyway, Ronald Reagan's presidency has been by far the most successful ever.
Well, I think that...
Actually, globally, what happened as a result of his policies was the biggest wealth creation in the history of mankind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on paper. So the negatives, no one's ever perfect, right? I mean, He did some dumb stuff. The war on drugs was a disaster, but that was obviously his wife. I think he did that to make Nancy happy. Because it's a disaster. I just created a cartel with badges.
How can you fight a war on drugs when your vice president is one of the leading members of the cartel that supplies the drugs?
Well, I mean, they just created a new one, so they wanted a piece of it, right? So now you've created this huge, gigantic. It's literally a military now, the DEA, and when all the while they don't even have the authority to do this in the first place. So this is there's other stuff, Iran-Contra, right? I mean, Reagan wasn't perfect, but I'll tell you what, I would.
This is where I start to
only dream of having a president like that.
Oh, the thing about
God.
And the thing that Trump is doing, which you can kind of see goes hand in hand. The thing about Reagan was he was a great statesman. He was a great speaker. He was able to. He'd come on there and say, "We're going to do this," and everybody in America would say, yeah, we're going to do this. And everyone would come together, right? Now, you look at what the consumer confidence that's going on right now with Trump, it's pretty high. It's growing quite a bit.
It's waning a bit, though.
Well,
I'm noticing that the ticker is kind of, the steam is kind of, let's face it, he's done absolutely nothing on his core platform. Not a thing. That literally has done nothing that he ran on. Nothing. Name one thing that he's done that he ran on. Not a thing. Nothing.
I hear you saying nothing.
He's literally done nothing.
What? Okay, what's the stance on? When I look at the illegal immigration stuff that's going on right now, right? With the ban, the travel ban, we'll call it, right?
Yeah, but it's not an original idea. He didn't come up with that.
No, he didn't come up with that. But that's one of the things that he ran on, that he's trying. He tried to do. He didn't exactly.
No, he ran on illegal immigration and banning a few from getting in on vetting. That
it's silly. Look, it's like this. I mean, and you can say what you want about the wall. I don't like the idea of a wall. I don't want to live in a walled-in whatever.
I'm not a wall fan either, but
it doesn't matter. He's not doing anything with that either. The biggest one for me is tax reform.
Mm-hmm.
Ran on it. Now, tax reform isn't being called tax reform anymore. If you notice, they're now referring to it as something else, and they've done absolutely zero except for talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
It would be so simple for them. They have the power to do it.
Who has the power to do it?
Congress.
And why is that?
Because that's the way it's designed.
Well, I know, but because they have, they've got the House, they've got the Senate, they've got all these Republican.
Well, that's true. I mean, they now have.
It's like healthcare reform.
This is what's annoying so it started off, right? If we just had Congress, we could get XYZ done.
Yes.
So the American people give them Congress. Well, that's only 1/3 of 2/3 of the government, so we need the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
So they deliver them the Senate. They still do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's because we only got 2/3 of the, so we need the presidency. So now they deliver them the presidency as well.
Mm-hmm.
They got the whole thing locked up, and what are they doing? Nothing.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. And healthcare, this is a debacle. These people are
they
a
blew
joke.
that one.
Well,
Dude,
my argument
They
is they're not going to, if you're talking about establishment, Republican Party, and I'm going to go off and tell you, my view on this is the DNC has been hijacked. The RNC has been hijacked. These people, the establishment in those groups, are not for you. They're not for us.
It's proven.
They are hijacked.
It's proven because they have been balking about this law since they snuck it in,
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of the night in nefarious ways anyway. Not a single person that voted for that healthcare law read it. Not one.
Well, you had to pass it first before you could read it.
Of course. As the crypt keeper Nancy Pelosi tells us. But, so these guys have been...
Good-looking broad. What are you talking about?
She's a handsome woman.
Maybe like 150 years ago. But they're on and on. So what's it been, 6, 7 years now? 6 years.
Yeah, 8. Was it? Well...
Since it was rolled out.
6 years, yeah.
Okay. So, 6 years they've had to come up with a solution, if there is one, anyway. They got nothing. What have you guys been doing?
Because the plan was to never do anything about it.
Right.
That was a plan. And if it wasn't Obama, it was going to be Romney. Okay? It was either going to be Romney care or Obamacare if Romney somehow happened to win, which wasn't going to happen, right?
Yeah,
So I think we're pretty much on the same page here. So Trump lets this thing go through there. It fails miserably because it's...
Oh, but it's phase 1, so you got to wait for phase 2, and then eventually phase 3.
This is where I wondered, because he's been meeting with Rand Paul. So my hope is that he's got something else up his sleeve.
Well, here's the problem I have with that, is there isn't another single person on his staff that's anything like Rand Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Look at who he's got. He's either got establishment types or liberal Democrats out of New York City, bankers and the such.
Mm-hmm.
He literally has no one on his staff that's a conservative. Nobody. And he's not a conservative, clearly.
No, he's not a conservative.
Clearly.
No, when he won because he hijacked that party and was able to win on that.
Well, I'll tell you this, though. The conservatives put him there.
The conservative people did.
Yeah.
Yes.
They went and they voted him in there because they thought, but here now you got a guy coming out, and now he's talking about this $1 trillion infrastructure investment that's going to create millions of new jobs, and that's really it, isn't it? Isn't that really it? Government-created jobs. It's FDR all over again. This is also not an original idea. It's just more money.
Yeah, that's
And how, by the way, are you planning on paying for this? Because they've literally cut nothing. I keep hearing all this regulations are going to be cut and make things easier, and I'm not seeing it come to fruition, dude. And it would be as simple as pen on paper for them to change the tax code.
yeah.
They could scrap the whole thing and do his idea. Instead of, you'd have 3 brackets. It'd be much simpler. Blah, blah, blah. They're not doing any of that,
No,
dude. It's all lip service, dude. It's all just I'm like getting so disappointed because I'm seeing what I was afraid of.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we talked about. That's what we were afraid of. That he was going to be different, right? And I still have the hope that it's going to be different. He's playing things for a reason, and he's smarter than we're.
Oh God, I hope
who knows?
so.
Who knows? I don't know, but I'll tell you right now that if you think there's something's going to change with anyone else, that's not.
There's no chance.
It's like right now. I don't care if it's Benghazi investigation. I don't care if it's Russian hacking investigation, Susan Rice investigation. They're all going to get to the bottom of it. They're going to have this Senate hearings. They're going to go on and give you a bunch of lip service. Nothing is going to come of
Nothing.
it.
Nope.
Nothing will come of it because that is part of that plan.
And you know what? Why are people not up in arms? Because guess who's flipping the bill for all of this nonsense? We are.
No,
But it's fine. It's a soap opera, I guess. I guess this is all entertainment. This is very expensive entertainment.
yeah. Howard's talking about watching Homeland, and I say I got to watch the news.
It's unbelievable. This stuff that's going on. I'm just like, this is a disaster. It's an utter disaster. And you know what? It's embarrassing.
But in the end, it really isn't going to matter, right? Because
Well, it's all a digital simulation anyway, so
Absolutely.
it makes things a lot easier to swallow once you realize that.
yeah.
Everything's easier to take once you get on board with the whole digital simulation.
I'm telling you, dude.
thing. Yeah.
It is. At least for me.
Yeah, me too. It works.
Maybe it's because I'm weak-minded.
I just
Must
can't
be.
figure out
You
how to
have
read.
a high IQ, don't you?
I have a screaming high IQ.
Okay.
I can't figure out how to read that matrix screen. How you look at the screen and you can see what's going on with all these letters.
Oh, right.
I don't even see the code anymore. I see blonde, I see brunette, right from the movie.
I can't see anything of that. It's making me nervous. So
I don't know, man. I'm thinking we're in deep doo-doo, bro. I'm pretty sure that's not fixable. I mean, you have to make so many fundamental changes that to get things to actually function correctly. It's like trying to put diesel into a gasoline engine. It just ain't going to work, dude.
yeah.
And the Senate is it's a mess.
There's so much broken. I agree with you. There is so much broken.
No,
you
it's
can't
got to blow
expect-
up. It's got to blow up, and then it's what.
But honestly, I think
what
that's
we
what a
come
lot
up
of
with
people.
after.
The reason why they put Donald Trump in office was to have that blow up. Okay,
Might have been.
this is
And
what he's supposed
we
to
may
be.
have
The drains-
unwittingly played into their hand.
Well, hopefully he doesn't become part of the swamp.
The jury's still out for me. I'm concerned with where it's going. I'm a little less hopeful than I was a few months ago, but I'm not ready to make a decision yet.
Well, like we just said, it really doesn't matter. You need to put your everyone at all times has to have their affairs in order. As far as what if something happens? What if you lose your job? What if this happens? What if that? There's a big storm. There's you kind of have to be what they'd call a prepper, right?
Yeah.
To kind of protect yourself.
That used
And
to be called normal. But
you see, but now we're all tin hat. Just like on Facebook when
I figure the government will take care of me if anything that happens.
in the
you don't
camp-
qualify, dude. Oh. You can pay for the entitlements, but you can't use them. Just so you know.
Oh, my.
Yeah, just so you know. But if you really want to do an interesting study on what really led up to this situation we're in right now, with the courts, with the way the courts are actually functioning, with the way the courts conduct themselves, and how they are, their power is way out of control, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're writing law now. I mean, this is just insanity. It is interesting. I just made the connection in my head, but the 17th Amendment, which was a disaster, done on purpose to get us to where we are right now, also was ratified the same year that the Federal Reserve Act was 1913.
13.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that 17th Amendment was where it changed the structure of the Senate, being that instead of the senators being appointed by the state, because that's the purpose of the Senate, is to represent the states and the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
They put it up to senators are now elected by popular vote, which is what the House of Representatives is for. So now, on the federal level, the state's got nothing.
And it shows.
They got nothing. Well, you look at guys like Chuck Schumer, you look at guys even like John McCain. You know, the only reason these guys are even in there is because they keep getting elected. It's got nothing to do with the highest office in the state, which is the governor, which is who's supposed to appoint senators. Now it's broken.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally broken. And until you go back on that stuff, man, you ain't gonna fix this mess, dude. It's not fixable because it's broken.
Yeah,
it's like a catastrophic, break. It's a bent frame. You can't straighten it out.
This is how I feel about the media. It's broken. You're gonna have to do a purge. I'm not gonna say anything on air, but we'll say it all there. But there's things that need to happen. Media with these people in the Senate, Congress, all these. There's so much corruption and so much evil things going on that it really does. Something major has to happen, like you're saying.
Well, people are getting very wealthy off of being lobbyists.
Mm-hmm.
Just think about that for a minute. Why is that even a thing?
Well, that's like asking why would Saudi Arabia give so much money to the Clinton Foundation? Same thing, right?
So when you have this, that's why the one thing I will say he did do, talking about Trump, is he made it so that if you leave office, you cannot become a lobbyist for a minimum of 5 years, which means...
I thought for a foreign government it was lifetime, right?
I don't know, probably, and it should be.
Right.
They don't need to be lobbying our government for anything. We'll tell you what we're going to do or not do. You don't come lobby. That's craziness. But just regular old lobbyists, this way the current administration is gone, and then you can come lobby. I still think it's not enough. It's not going far enough. But it's at least something that curbs that a little bit, because why? If you can become a multi-millionaire from lobbying, you have to think, how are you getting paid? What's the payoff?
You're getting paid for your relationship.
I mean, you're not going to give me $1 million check to go talk to somebody, and then when I come back, like, all right, dude, we're all good. I talked to him, and then that's good for your $1 million. That's all you care in return.
Right?
No. Until laws are passed and legislation is enacted to benefit these people that paid that lobbyist, and that's what we got. That's where this whole crony capitalism comes from, and it's bad. Mm-hmm. It's really, really corrupt. It's unbelievable. Let's talk about other countries being so corrupt, but I gotta tell you something. We've sophisticated it to a point where it's
that's
unbelievable.
That's what's funny about it. We all, as Americans, think that, hey, we're doing the right thing, but yet our government, you talk about Syria, you talk about all these different things that go on, the spying, the election interference. Our government does that. We get involved in other people's elections.
Our government's probably worse because
there was a story
the
out
governments that we talk about that we accuse of corruption, they just are what they are. They're corrupt. They don't really try to be anything but. They just go on and do what they're doing. I'm talking about, the quote, the air quotes, third world country governments that are that we're not.
Right.
We're worse.
Well, that's like
because
paying off.
They were most likely.
We masquerade as good guys, and we are worse.
Well,
we are doing more evil.
Oh yeah.
More and just more diabolical things are going on behind the curtain.
It's not slipping a cop a hundo to get out of a speeding ticket.
Right.
That's corruption, but it's not the kind of corruption that we're embroiled in. This is gigantic stuff,
right.
Sophisticated, big time.
Most of the governments that Howard's talking about were most likely, very highly likely, I'll say, put in by
our government,
our government,
especially through the 70s and 80s.
Ron Paul just said that. I just watched Ron Paul today. He was talking about Syria, and he said, he's talking about the Soviet Union, he's talking about how the Crimea and Ukraine, and how everyone's up and against. Oh, look what Russia's doing in the Ukraine, right? And Ron Paul says, well, it's no secret that our CIA and special forces and all these things had a hand in that. What was going on, getting that country to fall away from Russia and do what they do.
Yeah, but don't listen to Ron Paul. He's a doddering fool,
he doesn't know.
Yeah.
He has no clue.
Well, who's going to introduce Catherine?
Well, I think we're going to take a break, and then we'll get her to wear some headphones, and she can talk to us.
Yeah,
and,
she was busy texting.
She slipped in quiet as a mouse.
I promise in the second hour we will hear Nick's voice.
Maybe.
That's my plan. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to Down the Rabbit Hole. We paid a few bills. We are now refreshed. Took a brisk jog out in the wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous April weather. And we're going to continue on down this rabbit hole we're on today. So Nick had some interesting things happen to him this weekend that I think he wanted to talk about. So I desperately want to get Nick involved because he drives a long way to come here and listen to us.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I have a little less interested in conspiracy theories right now, but, I do Saturday I really did see that Jesus died on the cross to show that he loved us, and I know it's simple, and I know you hear it like all the time, but just like all of us here, we see things, right?
Mm-hmm.
You might see, Tony sees things in politics and he spots lies, and Dave here, he's real aware of demons and read the reality of them. So sometimes you see these things, they open your eyes.
Right.
And, and I've always looked at the pastors. I'm like, God, everyone's telling me, the love of Jesus, and I believe, I think there's always degrees, there's degrees of how much you believe and why, or what's shown you, or God opens your eyes. And, you just open my eyes, more. Like I see that, oh, okay, well, to show his love for us, he died on the cross. So, I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I probably heard that.
Right, but it didn't sink in for some reason.
Yeah, it's just, it's just one of those things where you just you get to a point and you see something. So that happened to me, and it was great. I mean, I had some struggles too through it, and then, but also I just had an experience. Just had a deeper experience, and it's just now more meaningful to me.
Well, that's good.
Everything I hear in the Bible and I read, I just say, okay, you know what, because. Like that's worthwhile reading that,
And you got to be careful though, because the closer you get to the truth, the more attacks that come, the more distractions that come, the more things that are going to get in your way to try and change your mind. So, I mean, you're obviously in a pretty good place right now, and that's awesome. I'm really happy for you that you're finding these new degrees, but be wary as well, and also make sure that. You have to. What was that? DiBiase knows it. What is the thing about checking the messengers?
Yeah, you test the spirits.
Yeah, test the spirits. So you have to be very, very careful, because I know at times, at least I can speak for Kat DiBiase, myself, Hooper. Throughout our time on this show and our time, in fellowship where we've been discussing these topics. And I'm talking about the topics of the Bible, not the topics of conspiracy. We've all experienced it where we thought we were sure of something, and then we realized it was just a false message, So, be careful, because, you're getting to the truth. But that's when I find I am under the greatest attack, is when I've made when I've made a new leap.
Yeah, unless you're a masochist like me, welcome the attacks as a challenge to get through them. Probably because I'm a sicko. They don't really set me back anymore.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not quite there yet.
Kind of like, yeah,
okay,
better. Whatever it is.
They set me back. They don't set me back as far.
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
You're not alone.
Right. I've been noticing that, hearing the same thing from a lot of people. So
it's almost like you have to be up for it. The spiritual warrior, ready to face it head on and go after it.
Well, the Bible says that no one really can. I mean, it says, "Seek me, and you will find me."
Mm-hmm.
But it honestly, it's up to the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit has to work inside someone before they'll see the truth. I mean, if you seek the Holy Spirit out, you'll find him.
Absolutely.
No doubt. But it's kind of weird because it's the Holy Spirit that gets your attention to begin with.
Yeah,
Right.
some people have a hard
And-
time, like, when you say that, it's like, how do you describe that?
Right.
So I like the way Hooper put it once. It's like, once that kind of takes place, it's like this big information dump.
Yeah.
It's really hard to describe,
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds even a little, I don't know, kind of new agey.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Right.
It and again, I kind of went over this a little bit too, where things can become cliche because you hear it all the time, and you kind of start glossing over the meanings of words. But and we only have so many words to describe things, so we're limited there. But you can read something one day, and then 6 months later, because this takes place in your life, then you will understand it. Even though you already read it, you maybe read it multiple
Right.
times.
Oh, I've had that happen thousands of times.
You know, that still happens.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you read something and you're like, why didn't I see that before?
totally.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, we just went through this just the other day. Howard brought something up to me, and I was like, dude, that never entered my mind.
I know what you're talking about.
It was
actually
awesome.
He told me about that.
Yeah,
That
it was
very
awesome.
cool.
I
Yeah.
suffered from pride for a moment there.
And I'm like,
I will admit it.
No, you
I
didn't
must
say
admit
it like that. You were just excited for him.
it was awesome.
He was
I'm like,
talking you up, and by the way, congratulations. I hear your thing's going really good.
thank you. Yeah, I'm happy with it so far. So I've been blessed for the opportunity, and I'm actually shocked that they trust me to do that. So it was
Not
awesome.
me.
I don't take it.
Not me.
I don't take it lightly.
And I am
It's
not
humbling.
I am not shocked at all at Sister Raquel and how she was a rock star.
Yeah.
You know, no one's
She's into it,
everybody's afraid to say something, and she comes out and is just mic dropping.
Yeah,
I mean, just
she's awesome.
Awesome.
And it is amazing that, and there's another cliche term, right? But I mean that because she's probably the most conservative
Yeah.
type older
Yeah.
woman, mom, grandma,
been on the path a very long time.
but not always on the path, which is very interesting
Yeah.
because, and that's another thing that gets cliches on the path. No one, whatever.
Sorry. Well, I don't know what to call it.
That's what my point is, that it becomes cliche. So when people hear it, they don't really understand what it means.
Oh, I see
Right.
what you're saying.
Because, you say things are evil. You really know what that means?
Right.
When you say you believe, do you really know what the word means? Like, it just gets kind of glossed over.
Mhm.
But she dabbled with occultic stuff back in her college days or
Yeah.
whatever, and it freaked her out. And that was the last thing I would ever expect to
from
come
her.
out of her
Yeah,
mouth,
yeah.
was that she even dabbled in stuff like that.
Yeah.
But she got a peek inside. And she realizes that it's real. She didn't play it off like, oh, well, this guy's talking about craziness. She's all about it, dude. And that this whole experience has been very cool.
Yeah, it's been wonderful, and it's, you and I don't want to say we stand apart, but we have a little different view on things, and we're surrounded by a bunch of wonderful people at our church, and it's very refreshing to see how open-minded they are. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to walk in lockstep with us, but they realize that our intentions are genuine, that we are exposing them to a different way of looking at things, and through this study you've done, which I've told everybody how awesome it is. It's really cool to see how receptive they are to considering.
Dude, I went
what you have to
out
say.
on a limb, dude.
No, you went way out on a limb,
I did.
and they were just in there.
Yeah, it was cool. And like I said, I don't want to call them out, but I will. Half of it was prepared solely for Nick.
Oh man,
For Nick's
Sorry about
benefit.
that. Yeah,
But it's all good,
it was-
dude.
it was God.
It
Yeah.
worked, though, because obviously it worked.
Yeah.
You weren't
Right.
there, but it worked anyway. But I did half of it on, particle physics, and it went over better than
God
I thought.
God had a planned intervention with me, so you're gonna have to just talk.
That
to him.
maybe
No,
it was
it's okay.
that's how it
Maybe
went.
that's how
You
it's
didn't have
supposed
to
to
be
go.
there.
Right.
See? And that's the great thing about this stuff.
Well, you had a great payoff with that painting. That was a great payoff because there were times when I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, where is he going? Yep, okay. No, I know this. Okay, yeah, I get this. All right, that's interesting. And then you put that painting back up after you did,
Yeah.
the 3D the 3D version of 4D. And that's I was kind of like, wow.
I was hoping that when people first saw the painting, it's a Salvador Dali painting from
Yeah.
1954 called The Crucifixion, where it shows Jesus Christ on a 4-dimensional cube, which looks like a cross if you check it out. But I showed that first, and my intention was that most of the people in that room didn't see the painting before. And when you see it, you're probably going to, first thing is going to be like, ugh. Like it looks a little paganish, a little like even blasphemous in a way, because it's an illustration of the crucifixion, which is not orthodox. It's not traditional. It's very different. So I was hoping they would have a preconceived notion or a judgment of it just by seeing the picture. And then going through and explaining the idea of that's exactly the painting.
Yeah, that's the painting.
Of what that shape actually is and why it's important. And then I show the painting again. I was hoping that had the effect that I wanted.
Because everybody had kind of forgotten about the painting with all of the, with all of the other description.
Yeah, because at first glance you might look like, man, what's this guy? It's like
So what's the purpose of that painting?
You'd have to ask Dali. I don't know, but what I see is Jesus Christ on a 4-dimensional cube, which is interesting because that is the nature of our environment that we live. Is it's at least 4 dimensions that we can measure. And if you try, you've seen a 2-dimensional rendering of a 3D cube, right? It's a picture, but you can tell it's supposed to be a 3D object. But if you take that same object and open it up to make it into 2D, you flatten it out, it actually makes the shape of a cross, which is an odd coincidence. I'm sure it's not a coincidence at all. But if you try to illustrate what a 4-dimensional cube would look like, that's the shape. And he painted that picture with Jesus on a 4-dimensional cube, which is interesting to me because it kind of, to me, that tells me that painting is more inspired than anything.
What do you mean by a 4-dimensional cube? I don't get what you're saying.
I mean, you know what a 2D shape is, a square, a circle, a triangle. You know what a 3D shape is, a cube, a sphere, a cone, these things. But if you try to include a 4th dimension in it, it's very hard to illustrate what that would look like in 3D.
I was just curious because the cube is I don't know. Cube is I've always known as a satanic symbol, so I don't know how that fits in this.
No, I'm just talking about geometry.
Oh, okay.
So, and the idea was the concept of, when you talk about the spiritual world, you talk about the heavens, the different levels of heaven, all these things that they're talking about as dimensions for someone who wants to look at it from a scientific standpoint. So it was just a way to illustrate that you might see something on face value and think it's one thing, but it's actually something very different than what you thought. And this is actually sometimes called a hypercube, a tesseract. It's a 4-dimensional analog of the cube. So it's again, it's just a concept. But yeah, it was cool. So I was going through how it is that we're a digital simulation and you weren't there for it. Can I bust your balls a little more about it, or is that enough?
That's enough.
Okay, cool. All right, I'm done.
He had an epiphany. Dude.
Yeah,
I'm okay.
I'm
with
just,
that.
dude. If
I'm willing to excuse the absence.
if there's nobody in the room who is harassing others,
Yep.
then it would be lacking.
I
have to
gotcha.
bust
I
his
gotcha.
chops, dude. I have to.
I know, but you're gonna have to
I
cut down
was,
on the
though.
hate crimes.
That's my-
I really was disappointed not going.
You know
It's
what?
making me feel bad.
Talking about what I was talking about earlier, though, about
Well, he's trying to make sure you're there next week.
Yeah, right.
Dude, I'm just,
I wanted-
I'm
I wanted-
totally
are you kidding
razzing
me?
you, dude.
The-
Totally
the
razzing
food
you.
Was, are you kidding me? I loved it there.
Don't mean anything personal by it. I'm just kidding around.
No, I know you don't.
What were you saying, Kat? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's okay. I was just thinking that, with Nick and his epiphany, and last weekend I lost a friend who it's like the closest person to me that's ever died. And there's a lot of unbelievers that are really, really good friends of mine that were there. And we were talking about discernment and all that. And also, like I said, hearing Nick's heart on the things that he has realized, and also reflecting on the conversations I've had in the past with Nick, and that you guys even have had in the past. It really just taught me and confirmed to me that the Spirit has got to be opening you in order for you to get anything. I mean, it really, truly does.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to learn when that is. Like I was, for the first time ever, I was witnessing to someone out of this whole funeral situation. And usually I'll just keep talking and, whatever. But I actually felt compelled to stop because I just knew that person wasn't ready to hear.
It was just maybe too much.
Well, I knew
That
they
is
weren't.
new for you.
And not even because of where we were. It had nothing to do with being at a funeral. I could just tell that person was not spiritually ready to hear the good news. They just weren't. And so I just changed the subject and,
Good for you.
But yeah, it's been a good learning experience. And like I said, Nick is part of that too. We've been talking a lot. We've been helping each other out a lot, and just processing.
Well, for
through
me,
stuff.
the biggest thing I've learned from some of the people that I've been studying is discretion. That, we're so excited to share the word because we are passionate about it. I'm passionate about it as well. And, it's like we have people that we love that are not necessarily believers, that we want to get them over the hump. And so you kind of want to just bomb them with everything you figured out since the last time you saw them,
I'll still do that to Troy, no matter what.
Well, that's fine. Troy's your punching bag, and that's cool because he's good-natured about it. So, but the one thing I've learned, and again, it happens by accident. I think it's definitely influenced by the Holy Spirit because I had a similar situation where I've also lost someone that was very close to me as well. Just the week prior. And I think I've told you guys privately that I was sitting there with a couple people who happened to be Jewish, a couple unbelievers, a couple Catholics who barely go. The Easter, what do they call them? The Creaster, Christmas and Easter. Yeah,
Christmas and Easter.
And
they're Kinos, Christians in name only. No, I'm just kidding.
Kinos, I love it.
Nice.
I made that up.
That's pretty good.
You coined it today,
Yep,
April 6, 2007.
Well,
That's pretty
I
good.
said it before, but today it's official.
Yeah, that's nice. We've got it on tape. It's trademarked. And, they asked a few questions, and it was just a naturally evolving conversation that went towards Christianity. It's very strange and refreshing at the same time for them to see my, I don't want to call it conversion, but to see my dedication to Christianity. And I'm someone that they know and believe. So I have a very unique opportunity with them when I witness, as long as I keep it real. And one of them just could not contain herself. She said, okay, well, here's what I don't get. I'm like, okay, what don't you get? Well, just explain this to me. And the words that came out of my mouth were other people's words, but of course I took credit for them. But the words that came out of my mouth just flowed so easily. It was so natural, and I wasn't even thinking. It just came out, and everybody was just looking at me and going, hey, I never thought of it like that before. Wow. And then we got interrupted and moved on. Now, if I would have sat there for another hour and gone on about Bible verses and told my favorite stories, and, Moses is my favorite biblical character at the moment, and big fan of Paul as well, and, gone through all that stuff, it wouldn't have had the same impact. But now each one of them is privately engaging me on the topics.
Right.
And I have more opportunities to share more Christian love with them and give them some knowledge and some nuggets. And I've got one of them who's now reading the Bible. She's like, nope, stuff we've been talking about. I've started to read the Bible. I'm going to have a lot of questions. I'm like, my phone number. Whatever answers I don't have, I will get. I'm always happy to give you opinions. I don't know everything, but I know a couple things.
But mission accomplished.
Yeah, I mean,
she opened the book, and that's really it. That's really
exactly.
You just get them to look.
This is someone that Hooper and I worked on really hard because she was absolutely, she was like as close. She was an absolute non-believer a year ago.
And there you go. Now she's in there.
Yeah.
So now the ball's rolling, dude.
Yep. And she like I said, she has the things she says to me, the way she talks to me, and stuff like that. Now it's total. It is changed. It is deepened, and she's smart enough to know what's going on. She just has to have the interest to find these things out for herself. And I couldn't be happier for her, because she's a wonderful person who's gone through a lot of tough times in her life. Like, we've all been through tough times, and her road has been rough. And I'm glad to see the peace and the joy that come out of it, because that's the one thing I remember Hooper asking me, not to necessarily go back into me witnessing again, but I remember Hooper asking me, what's the one thing that Christianity gave you that none of the other things you've tried in your life have? And it's peace. Nothing else I have done in my life has given me any sense of peace. But since I have devoted myself to the Word, to learning more, to reading the Bible, to studying the Bible, and to try and live that type of lifestyle, I've been given things in my life are blowing up twice as often as they blew up before I was a believer. But I'm now able to handle it with a little bit of peace and come through it without being a complete emotional, mental wreck. Yeah. So if you're looking for peace, man, it's there.
Yeah, and even, just looking for some truth. Looking for some truth in this.
Well, I started by looking for truth, and the peace was one of those unexpected byproducts of the quest for knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the statements you made a long time ago, Dave, was when you hear the truth, you will know. Mm-hmm. Okay.
But you may not know at that moment.
Well, when you hear the truth, you know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so you guys have to tell me where that comes from.
Well, there's two modes of reaction to that too. So you hear the truth, you know it. Mm-hmm. Now you either accept it or you reject it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But this knowing the truth when it is the truth and you accept it, is that what brings peace? Do you think?
I think thankfulness for once you understand the truth, it's being grateful for it, mm-hmm. and that brings all kinds of peace.
Yeah.
Gratitude brings peace.
Yeah,
for no doubt.
And selfishly, a little bit, I have to admit, when you're not really in charge, right?
Makes life so much easier.
There's a lot of peace in that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
because sometimes you just accept that some things are out of your hands, and to at least speaking from personal experience in the past, when there was nothing else to lean on. The pressure was on me.
Yeah.
And
that can be lonely.
Well, that and you make a career out of failure.
Yeah.
Say what you said again. The saying you said. The truth.
When you hear the truth,
you'll know it.
You'll know it. It just, when you said that, it just reminded me. Have you ever heard of the parable of the sower?
No.
Okay. So basically Jesus is with the multitudes, and there's so many people, by the way, this day there to listen to him that he had to get into a boat, and talk to him from the boat because there were so many people. And
that crowd's just too big. I got to hang out back.
And he tells this parable, and it's about a sower who goes out to sow, and he throws some seed out. Some falls by the wayside, so the birds come along and snatch up the seeds immediately. Some fall on stony, rocky ground where there's not a whole lot of earth, and they immediately spring up. They immediately spring up because there's no depth. But when the sun comes out, they're burnt and scorched. They're gone because there was no root. Some falls among the thorns, and thorns and thistles and weeds and stuff spring up and choke out the seed. But then others fall on good ground, yield a crop 100 times more, and blah, blah, blah. So the whole purpose of this parable, and I'll just read what Jesus said. It says, therefore, okay, wait, I'm sorry.
How you can read that stuff on your phones?
We make our fonts really big.
Yeah, okay, here's what he says.
Glasses.
He says, therefore, hear the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, Then the wicked one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. This is he who received the seed by the wayside. Okay, so that's the first. So really, the word of God that's what the seeds are. Mm-hmm. The sower is God. Mm-hmm. Okay, and or maybe the Holy Spirit. And the first set of seeds, Satan, is the words. Okay, just people hear the word and like, yeah, whatever, and dismiss it and go on. Okay, but he who received the seed on stony places, this is who hears the word immediately and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root in himself, but endures only for a while. For when the tribulation or persecution arises because of the word, immediately he stumbles. Okay, so that's the person who's like, oh man, everyone's going to rip on me because I'm a Christian. People are going to think I'm a Jesus freak. You know, that's just one example of that. And then it says, now he who received the seed among the thorns is he who hears the word and cares of this world, and the deceitfulness and riches choke the word, and he becomes unfruitful. So the last set of people are the people who are like, yeah, that Jesus thing sounds great, but you know what? Got a lot of money, got a lot of women to do, got a lot of, you know what I mean? It's all about, right. And then, of course, he says, but he who receives seed on the good ground is he who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit and produces some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. So that's the person right there. When you hear the truth, you'll know it. But there is a time when, like Howard said, you'll hear the truth. People around you will know you heard the truth, but you might not know it. And I think that's
and it comes like it comes to Nick too, because I've had epiphanies. Okay, I still remember the first time it hit me in the face was standing in my office with Hooper, when I realized I was just looking in the wrong places.
Well, and if I may say, for a full year prior to that, I had been talking to him about Jesus ad nauseum, to the point where he was like, "Oh God, here she comes," rolling his eyes. Right?
It wasn't. It
bad. It never took root with him.
Well, I think that's a common thing that you'll see. You know, the people you described of why it doesn't take root. It's very
well, and to be perfectly honest, what disqualified Kat in my mind was the church that she goes to. I had one bad experience with some people that went to that church, and I immediately judged everyone to go there to be the same. And that it was it's a super church and blah blah blah, and there was the potential that I would listen to Kat more than I would listen to other people who were witnessing to me. And so the devil got right in there. He's like, oh, no, you don't like super churches. And remember those people who went there? Yeah, they were really mean to you. Yeah.
That's Satan.
And so that was stuck in the back of my mind. I told her 1,000 times, hey, that's where you go. Right. Not for me. I'm not going there. And then finally, when I got it, she was one of the first people I called. And I was like, you're not going to believe where I've been the last few months. Come by the office. We got to talk. And we had lunch together, and we discussed it, and no one was happier than Kat.
Tony, you were going to say something, though.
I was basically talking about the different reasons why people don't want to hear it.
What do you think that is?
Oh, there's a ton of reasons. I mean, like you said, there's a lot of, and like Hooper said, we've had this conversation. It's that, hey, I'm still partying. I don't want to give up having a good time. First of all, you think like you have to give up a good time. You have to live a certain way. You have to do certain things. So there's a lot of, and like we were talking about earlier, the media. There's so many things bombarding us from every different direction that it's amazing when you actually sit back, realize what's going on, and then you start to see it. You can see it happening as it goes. You're like, oh yeah, I see that, I see this, but it's coming from all over the place. There's got to be there's to me there's no logical reason why there's got to be so many people bashing on religion, being a Christian.
Well,
and
and it's so bizarre too. I mean, we all know it's Satan, but isn't it strange that I'm in this political group on Facebook. It's a secret group, and we can talk about Islam all day long in that group, okay? And nobody will say one negative thing about Muslims. But the minute you bring up Christianity,
Yeah.
or somebody will
by
post
design.
somebody will
By
post
design.
something in there, and it'll be an article bashing Muslims, and they'll come alongside and defend that until the cows come home. But they won't even. I mean, they'll join in the ridicule of a Christian article, and it makes me realize too. My old friends, the friends that I saw this past weekend at this funeral, like I said, most of them don't believe. They are all extremely book smart. Now, before I was saved, I would have told you they're some of the smartest people I know. Now I have to qualify that. They're book smart, okay? And these men, they pride. They're full of pride, which I know is a big part of the problem. But they pride themselves on being so knowledgeable. And they know they could break down Marxism, socialism, capitalism, communism, all the isms, and they can talk to you about Buddhism, name the ism. They can speak intelligently about it, but not one of them will pick up a Bible and open it just to see. And just last night, I was out with some of the people from that group, and one of my dearest friends who now I'm like on a mission because it was his best friend that died. And this guy, that I was with last night used to be my roommate. I just love him dearly, and I really want him to get it, But I know I can't make that happen. But anyways, I called him out on that. I said, have you ever opened the Bible? Because he was talking like he had all this knowledge about all these things, and he's talking about science. And I was starting to debate him, and then I felt like I was saying, no, just ask him to open my book. Ask him why he hasn't done that. And I did. And it was like a deer caught in the headlights. Yeah. And that, what astounds me about this is I know that that's supernatural. He is blind. He's blind because how can you be that logical and rational and not even be willing to open the book? And I even said to him, is it going to hurt you to do it? Is it? And he said, that's a good point.
Well, there's.
And this is Jason, by the way, because I know you're in that room. I don't know what you.
Yeah, I haven't been on Facebook much, but the nature of the spiritual warfare, to just kind of summarize it, and really, the one thing that's warned about at length is pride. Right. I think because this was me, and I think a lot of people fall into this kind of this trap where they think that looking into that, believing it, realizing that it's the truth equals abandoning science, abandoning what they know. They know.
That's a good point.
They know about, they know how old the earth is. They know all this stuff. They know everything, this. But a lot of that's not true. And they think that they have to abandon, especially people that walk around science. And I love science.
Right.
But
so does God. He created it.
Yeah. And
science
actually,
is the study of his knowledge. That's what it is.
Well, say that to a scientist, and you'll see the result. You'll see the demonic presence in the room. You'll see that clash visibly out in the open. And that's really what we're dealing with. So when you talk to somebody like that, they think that that if you just, and I've heard this said by, and myself included, blind faith, right? You hear this a lot. And there's really nothing blind about faith, but they think that you're somehow a weaker individual. Because you just adhere to this stuff because it's just, for you, it's kind of like the Santa Claus thing with kids, it's just kind of like fairy tale stuff, make you feel good, whatever. But there's real truth to it, and there's solid science behind it as well. And that's, I think, the barrier you try to break through, at least I do with these people, is like try to use their language to illustrate that they actually know better. They're just listening to the Richard Dawkins, the Stephen Hawking,
they were talking about Christopher
the Bill
Hitchens
Nyes, these people.
Yeah. I got to share something really quick, though. So funny about that conversation. So my friend, his name's Jay. And like I said, I used to live with him, one of my dearest friends. And and he was talking about this whole thing started with he was talking to our other friend about philosophy. There was several people sitting at this table, and I happened to be paying attention to what they were talking about. So they were talking about philosophy, and he was sharing his views about how not how we came to be, but he was sharing philosophical views, and I wanted to share my views, which come from the Bible. And as soon as I opened my mouth to share my view, I wasn't trying to change his mind or even witness to him. I was just contributing my point of view to the conversation. He kind of snapped at me, which he's never done that before. Okay, he kind of snapped at me, and he's like, "Not now," And I really haven't witnessed hard to this guy, especially not in a long time. And I was like, that was kind of like a smack in the face to me. And so I didn't say anything. And, there was a lull in the conversation. And I looked at him, I said, Jay, how could you say that to me, man? I said, I'm not trying to change your views. I know that I can't. I go, but I have to sit here and listen to you cram your views down my throat. And he goes, I'm Darwin thumping. He goes, you're accusing me. Get it? Like Bible thumpers?
Yeah.
But isn't that funny?
I mean,
that's pretty funny.
I think that's hilarious. Like you could tell someone who's trying to shove Darwin down your throat,
right.
Don't be a Darwin thumper. Right?
Well, that's, and that's actually, though, there's really very little truth in Darwin.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a little different than...
I got a couple for you on that real
funny.
quick. The first question I would ask him, if his reaction is as such, my first question would be, what are you so afraid of?
That's a good...
Why are you so afraid of my opinion? I mean...
What if he was
reacting that way and
trying to explain to you how like the Earth is 6 billion years old and evolution this, and you're like, you know what, not now.
Yeah.
Right.
How would he feel? Yeah.
Right.
Well, that would be rude.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
But the other way around is not rude because you're
Well,
trying to. You see what I mean? This is the whole. You see this clash come out in the open.
How can intelligent people not realize that?
That's exactly my point.
That the only people you're allowed to bag on are Christians. Can you ask yourself why? Do you think there might be a hidden agenda there? There could be a reason. I have one more thing for you to ask Jason. I want you to ask him what his favorite kind of ice cream is. And I want you to ask him what his least favorite kind of ice cream is. And then ask him, well, how did you figure out which was your favorite and which was your least? Because he tried them.
That's right.
Yeah.
So how can you even talk to me about God when you won't open the Bible?
That's exactly
right.
Well,
that's a great point. I was just going to say, because listening to your stories, right, the anger, the rejection, most of the time it's because you haven't really read it yourself.
Right, well, they dismiss it. They dismiss it out of hand without ever looking at it. Now, if you're any kind of good scientist,
you're going to do your research.
You have to look. You have to research the negative and the positive. You have to research the theories you're against more than the theories you're for, so that you can prove them to be inaccurate.
Right.
But this is not what a I'm sorry, you're not a scientist if you read a couple books and you're at the bar with your buddies discussing philosophy.
Thank you.
Okay, you're a fool. Okay,
well, you're certainly not a scientist if you're touting theories as law.
Right.
Exactly. Well, this kind of stuff it makes me angry.
And very understandable.
You better invite all three of us to that political room. That's all I'm saying. I am ready to start typing some words.
But like Dave said, these people that are scientists, it's been beat into them.
Yeah.
That don't even go there. You don't need to read that. You don't need, this is what the facts are. That's all garbage. Don't even,
and that's why I get so upset with
why is that such a push? You know what I mean? It's
the deception is enlightenment. You're enlightened, and what does that mean? If you're enlightened, that means the person that doesn't agree with you is a moron.
Well, no,
so
wait a minute,
I'm not talking about your friends in general.
It doesn't matter. But this goes back to what we first started talking about. The Spirit's got to be moving them. It's not their fault if that's.
I'm totally off that and just talking about these people now.
Well, that's true for them too.
Now you're just
I'm just ranting.
chucking daggers.
No,
look,
it frustrates me too, but I don't think we're supposed to get frustrated about it because he's in control.
No, it's okay to be a little frustrated.
It's natural.
Sometimes you got to fight fire with fire.
It's
as
definitely
long as
human,
yeah.
for sure. It's definitely human.
Hey, look, I'm guilty.
I'm tired of being shamed.
Oh, I've had all these conversations in the past.
I know.
I was there. I was like, no, it's nonsense.
And you try to talk to them and go, look, I am open-minded enough to consider your point of view and research your point, but you won't even consider mine.
I know.
And honestly, it's not your point of view, is it?
Well, I mean,
Right.
in the conversation,
Well, yeah.
it is my point of view because they disagree with me. That's your opinion. If that's
Well,
what you want to believe.
I mean, how
And
ridiculous.
it's like, no, it's not what I believe. It's the truth.
Yes, well, it's not even your opinion. It's like you've read it. It was written before. You didn't come up with this idea called the Bible, and
I
you're
know,
trying
yeah.
to sell it.
But we have to.
When'd you write that, Howard?
We have to start. We have to start
You know.
with the. We have to start on a common ground. I understand what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying, though?
Oh, semantically, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's not
Well,
opinion.
how ridiculous does the following statement sound right now? For like the one or two people listening, I'm picking up a notebook in my hand. I don't believe anything that's written in this notebook, but I haven't read it. But
Right.
it's not true.
Right, but this
Does that sound
this
smart?
card
Does that
here,
sound like something a smart person would say?
No.
This
I-
card here with the Wi-Fi access number, that is the truth. I
Yeah.
know that this is the truth, and everything in that book is false.
Yeah.
But I've never opened the book. In fact, I'm closing my eyes right now. I can't even look at it.
Well, you know, the funny thing about that also, they haven't opened the book, but you also believe everything you've heard about it. Right?
Oh,
It's
Right.
like we're
Yeah.
talking about with the original
Yeah.
talk about hell, right? You believe all these different things about hell until someone like Nick here starts really investigating
Yeah,
and going
digging
through
into
it,
it, yep.
digging into it. Same thing that's the things that you dig into. All you guys have dug into different things, and you've read this, and all of a sudden, and you hear this point of view, right? When you actually dig out the information and say this is what it says, then you go, wait a minute, that's not how I understood it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
But
No,
that's
you're down there, you're getting whipped and chained, and
And that's the difference in our educational system that's gradually happened over the last 100 years, is you are no longer being educated at a college, you are being indoctrinated. They are not teaching you to use your mind to solve problems. They are filling your mind with other people's opinions and telling you that they are laws and truth.
well, here's the
Yeah.
thing. I think everybody in this room, I mean, I'm probably the number one person guilty of this, was exactly like you said. Exactly like you said, Tony. I mean, I would argue with Christians.
Oh, me too.
Never opened up a Bible.
Me too.
I would talk about the Bible based on things that I heard, talking points. And yeah, I'm guilty as charged.
Well, I think we all were at one point. I was vehemently. I just decided that, I bought the line. Why would a just God ... Why would a just God? Why would a loving God ... Fill in the cliche here, and I never bothered to get an answer to the question. I just assumed I had the answer. Because the devil's whispering in my ear, because he's not a nice guy, absentee landlord, and I'm watching Devil's Advocate. I'm like, yeah, he's an absentee landlord. I mean, come on, Al Pacino's the devil. Al Pacino's cool, I was just like, yeah, that's good, And if you're not willing to look for the answers yourself, you're never gonna find them.
No, you won't.
pride.
Find them. You won't.
And pride's
And
a
it's
bitch, man.
Well, pride is arguably the numero uno top dog
You ain't kidding.
thing
Yeah.
to watch out for. Hubris is the most dangerous.
Well, and then
thing.
what do they tell us as men? Okay, how have we been raised? We're all
Be proud.
We are all roughly the same age. Take care of your business. You make sure you better have that under control, or you're not a man. So what happens is we're part of the group that it's really important to us for one reason or another to be a man and to stand up and take care of our responsibilities, our children, our families.
Which
this is really important to us. So what do? We take on so many responsibilities that aren't our responsibilities that we stress ourselves out to the breaking point. We're going to snap. And we become isolated because the system has led us to believe that if you're a man, you got to take care of business.
Well, I agree with that. You do have to take care of business, but you do it with humility.
Well, and that's the difference, is that they allow you to think that they give you the illusion of control, that you are in control.
Well,
and we
yeah,
are
that's in your household you are.
Well, yes.
Right.
But
This
even
is
society sends
maybe
those
in-
messges.
maybe
You're the
in your
master of your
household.
own destiny.
there you go. That's more, the hubris thing. And how many times have you heard, seen the T-shirts, right? And this is going to come off wrong, but proud to be an American. Proud American, proud, pride,
Right.
pride,
Pride.
proud.
Built with pride.
And
American
that is
pride.
really, really dangerous.
Depending on how you take it.
No,
Depending on how
it's dangerous because instead of saying, we're grateful for what we've been blessed with, we say, look what we did.
Because
you see what I
we're
mean?
up
There's
there.
a difference. There's a difference.
I see. I just say the same thing.
We say, look what we did, not look what God gave us.
Yeah, and even if you wanted to do the the God light statement where you can just say we've been blessed, right? You know what I mean? You can
So you don't have to say.
you don't have to get all
God.
heavy like in a conference room at work or something. But I mean, if you just do it with humility, it's different than being a boastful idiot, which is what we got a lot of.
There's tons
around.
Tons of blowhards out there.
Big time.
Tony, you want to make a point?
Well, I think if I make a point, it'd be a whole other show.
Okay.
Well, we have more shows coming.
I was just,
God willing.
What's interesting is you kind of see what's going on with Christianity. We talk about all the things you hear about it. You hear all these negative things. You hear, this is how could your God be this way and that way.
We did a show about this. Remember?
So this is how Christianity is portrayed. But on the other hand, look what's going on right now with the Muslim faith. There are so many people out there talking about how great the Muslim faith is. And then you get actual Muslims out here and says, well, this is what this says, what the Quran actually says, or,
right.
what it really means,
There is
Sharia law and all these different things. And it's like they are just so pro, and I'm not one way or another, okay? I'm not saying being a Muslim is good or being a Muslim is bad. The only thing is what you're seeing right now is everybody taunting how great it is. How Muslim is the great religion.
Yeah,
but yet on the other hand...
Yeah, great religion of peace, isn't it?
It's a great religion of peace, whereas
That's
Christianity
why there's
is bad.
So much peace
Right.
in the Middle East.
And that's what I mean, and it's so funny because, these are, I've said this to liberals in this room and never gotten an answer. I've posed this question more than once. If a gay couple sued a liberal baker, if a gay couple sued a Muslim baker for not baking them a wedding cake, whose side would you be on? Think about that, okay? Because they support gay people, and I'm not saying I don't. I mean, I love gay people. And they support Muslims, yet Muslims, their doctrine says to push them off a building to spare them. Mm-hmm. That's what their doctrine teaches them to do to gay people. Our God teaches us to love them, okay? But yet... I mean, so I don't.
Well,
get
a good judge would not even take the case because that's a private company, and they can make a cake for whoever the heck they want.
My point is the liberal ideology makes no sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
The brainwashing that's going on right now is what doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because actually,
That
you'd get in that situation, they would get smoke coming out of their ears because they wouldn't know what to do.
They would never answer me.
And then
they won't answer.
Make the gay couple biracial, mixed race.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of them's in a wheelchair.
And one
Even
of them,
I mean,
but
now
the
what?
baker's blind.
And if you make them both gender fluid, are they actually? Gay?
Oh, the baker is a Muslim tranny.
Yeah.
Now what do you do?
Yeah.
You
know what I mean?
Put a show on Fox.
I say punt.
Yeah, punt.
Yeah, we punt that one.
Yeah, we punt. Well, I think it's about time to punt this. So
we'll end it with Muslim tranny.
We're gonna end it with a Muslim tranny. This one's definitely going up on YouTube. This has been Down the Rabbit Hole. To God be the glory. Great things.